Around the same time the Muppets Mayhem series released, its co-creator Adam F. Goldberg tweeted, "Marvel started the MCU with Iron Man. The plan is for the Mayhem to spark an epic Muppetverse. So I need your thoughts on what Muppets deserve to get their own series." Later followed up with, "First time being certified fresh, but all that truly matters is starting the Muppetverse, aka the MCU, aka the Muppet Cinematic Universe." This struck me as not only a very casual way to announce something big like this, but the whole MCU thing threw me off, considering, that other MCU. Although my immediate response was, "It's what we wanted all along," I couldn't help but be skeptical as to whether this would actually come to fruition, due to the Muppets' historic lack of consistency. A cohesive universe would be something the Muppets have never really had. I think that in an alternate reality, if their momentum from the Muppet Show had been maintained and they never fell out of the public eye, I could totally see the Muppets as a big franchise by now, like Star Wars, with a variety of stories being told within the Muppet universe, perhaps focusing on different characters. I think that could have happened naturally over the past few decades. But instead, what we've had is essentially a string of reboots that never really caught on. In the 90s, the Muppet adaptations of Christmas Carol and Treasure Island were pretty popular, but in a bid to re-establish the Muppets as themselves, as opposed to playing other characters, we got the TV series Muppets Tonight, which was cancelled after 10 episodes. Then Muppets from Space, which didn't perform great either. In the 2000s, the attempt was made to carry on the more successful Muppet adaptations with Wizard of Oz, which was received horribly. So then we rebound back to some unrelated Christmas TV movies. The perfect opportunity to kickstart a Muppet universe would have been with the 2011 film, purely because it was a great movie that re-established the Muppets as a big deal to a pretty vast audience. But instead, the sequel, Most Wanted, immediately discounts the previous film as a film that the Muppets shot in universe, which I was never really a fan of, even though a similar thing happened before with the Muppet movie. Anyway, following this, we've gotten the ABC series, Muppets Now, Haunted Mansion, and Muppets Mayhem, and all of these are radically different takes on the Muppets as a brand, with each shooting off into completely different directions. So I honestly feel that if this was 10 years ago, a Muppet universe would have been a great idea. But at the minute, everyone's trying to capitalise on this expanded universe thing, which has been oversaturated to such an extent that it's now almost looked down upon. Marvel got it spot on the first time round, but after Endgame, a lot of the films and series feel like they're made solely to serve this ambiguous greater plot, as opposed to being memorable and compelling stories in their own right, and the latter should always be the primary focus. I think the concept of expanding upon supporting characters like the Mayhem is hypothetically harmless, and if done correctly would allow the audience to appreciate them more as individuals, which could pay off if we get another Muppet movie or something with a full ensemble. I mean, who wouldn't want a full series of Rolf with a musical focus, or a Swedish chef origin story? The possibilities are pretty much endless, so what's the downside? Well, any future shows would take place in the universe established in Muppets Mayhem, and frankly, this doesn't feel like a particularly compelling world that I'd want to return to. As much as I love the Muppets themselves in the series, my attention was more so drawn to the dislikable human characters and washed out, overly cinematic look of the whole thing. Although some of the series was a really great taste of what the Muppets could be, other aspects were straight up nightmarish, which may have come across in my review. To put it bluntly, I'd much rather see a continuation of this as opposed to this. But since certain actors and members of the creative team are no longer involved, it seems unlikely this essence I'm looking for will ever be recaptured. So what we have at the moment ends up feeling like I've slipped into an alternate dimension where everything's slightly off, which doesn't seem the strongest foundation to then build a Muppet universe around. Put it this way, there's hardly going to be a standing ovation if Nora Singh steps through a magic portal into a Muppet movie, but Jason Segel as Gary? Sure. I have a desire to see what happened to these characters following the movie, you know? But that era seems way too far gone, in all honesty. On a more positive note, just because a movie or TV show takes place within the same universe as others, doesn't mean it has to follow the previously established visual style or tone. Though it's often beneficial to be somewhat consistent, it could have a completely different vibe to Muppets Mayhem, and nor does it have to tie in to established narrative events. I think a great balance would be something akin to Peter Kay's shared universe, wherein very subtle and clever hints are given to connect the whole thing if you look hard enough. But each show absolutely stands out as its own thing. However, even if Goldberg produces some of the finest Muppet content we've ever seen, my next concern would be the distribution of such content, as Disney Plus and streaming as a whole is sort of dying. There's been subscribers leaving, millions lost financially, and low viewership of Disney's biggest brands like Marvel and Star Wars. So this does not at all seem a friendly landscape for the Muppets to suddenly expand onto. Never mind Disney prioritising them when their biggest flagships are currently sinking. From what I've seen, the people currently working on the Muppets have the right idea and ambition to potentially make a Muppet cinematic universe work. But Disney and the streaming landscape as a whole is not in a good way. So it's like,
you can't be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood.
What I have loved is seeing people's suggestions in response to Goldberg's tweet, with some truly inspired concepts for Muppet spin-offs. And it's great to see a producer who communicates with the fans of the thing he is producing, and I really do hope we see some cool projects off the back of it. As much as I want all of this to work out, I also try to be honest and realistic, and the proposal of a Muppet universe is a somewhat far-fetched one given the position of the Muppets and Disney as a whole at the moment. However, please do leave your ideas for which characters deserve a spin-off down below. My personal favourite at the moment is the concept of Wilkins and Wontkins from the Wilkins coffee ads being revived for a series in which they're very persuasive travelling salesmen. I think such obscure but weirdly popular characters like this from the Muppets history would be perfect to explore as part of the proposed universe. But before I get too carried away, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.